covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented.
This is a canyon I just walked up in. Now you can't tell, but my truck is way out there by the mountains at the very end of this valley.
5 disturbing recordings left by missing persons. In June 2014, a YouTuber named Kenny Veach, using the name Snakebit McGee, took to the comment section on a video called Area 51 Technician's Son Discloses Secret Alternative Energy.
When they had tested a device that was supposed to be a new type of energy source, and they had taken it out into the range, and it had literally blown up when they tried to activate it.
He relayed a chilling story that got everyone's attention. The comment said, "That's nothing. I'm a long-distance hiker. Once, during one of my hikes near Nellis Air Force Base, I discovered a hidden cave. The entrance was shaped like a perfect capital M. I always go into every cave I find, but as I started to enter this one, my whole body began to vibrate. The closer I got to the cave entrance, the worse the vibrating became. Suddenly, I became very scared and hightailed it out of there. That was one of the strangest things that ever happened to me." Interestingly, Kenny's comment quickly grabbed a lot of attention. Some people accused him of lying, while others urged him to find the cave again and document the recording. So, Kenny decided to do just that. On October 18th of that year, he posted a video of his long-distance hike in the Nevada desert, where he tried to locate the cave for the second time.
This is a canyon I just walked up in. Now you can't tell, but my truck is way out there by the mountains at the very end of this valley. Kind of like a big canyon. On the other side of these mountains, I'll show you in a second, is the bombing range, the Nellis Air Force bombing range. They do a lot of practice stuff out there. This is an old mine, and there's a hole here that just goes way down. I'll show you that. And then the last time I came up here, I hiked up to the top of what they call Gas Peak, and I spent the night. It was a 2-day hike, and then I hiked all the way down to another valley over here and went past this mountain range you see on my right, all the way back out to the flat desert. Now, the camera doesn't pick this up very well, but it's a long way, and I just romp around out here, do some solo hikes, and have some fun. My mission today is to just do a 1-day hike. It's about a 10-hour hike. I got to still go over another ridge and then go all the way down a big crevice. It's real narrow and gets kind of scary. I'm looking for a cave that I found, and I didn't have a sidearm when I was here before, and something about that cave just spooked me. Out of all the caves I've ever gone in, this one just made my body vibrate. The closer I got to it, the crazier my body felt, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna go in there right now, but I'm coming back someday. And I talked to some people on YouTube, and I told them, hey, I'm coming out here, you know, because they kind of called my hand on it. So I don't know if there's going to be anything to it, but it might be interesting. If I can find it, I got to relocate it, and this is a big mountain range I'm in, and I'm on foot. You know, my truck's way out there. There's no roads, there's no trails. It's a pretty rough terrain. So hopefully I'll find it. It's shaped like a big M. It's a big cave that looks just like a gigantic M. And it's about as tall as I am and kind of narrow, and it's stuck on the side of a mountain, so I hope I can find it again.
At the start of the video, Kenny stands at the edge of an old abandoned mine shaft. He tells his viewers about the huge and tough hike he's about to take on. As the day goes on, Kenny keeps filming everything he sees while trekking through the Mojave Desert, trying to find the mysterious cave once again. Kenny's video ended without him finding the cave a second time, which prompted a lot of reaction. Many viewers harshly criticized him, calling him a fraud and pressuring him to search for the cave a third time. Among all the comments, one from a user named Lie Killmister was especially chilling and disturbing. It said, "No, do not go back there. If you find that cave entrance, don't go in. You won't get out." Despite the warning, on November 10th of that year, Kenny told his family he was going on an overnight hiking trip. He set off alone to find the mysterious M cave in the Mojave Desert, one of the hottest and driest places on Earth. That was the last time anyone ever saw him. On November 22, 2014, 12 days after Kenny set off to find the M cave, search and rescue volunteers discovered his phone at the top of the same mine shaft he showed in his video.
I'm gonna hike up the road, go up the valley to the mine where Kenny made his last video. We're going to make the M cave hike. To the best of my ability, I'm going to try to follow his exact footsteps because I have his video on my phone, so we can kind of follow that.
Sadly, even though they found his phone, the search for Kenny went cold, and his body was never found. What really happened to Kenny? Was he killed? After Kenny's mysterious disappearance, people began coming up with all kinds of theories about what happened to him. Most people said he either fell down the abandoned mine shaft or died from the harsh desert conditions. Known already for his recklessness and the way he plays with rattlesnakes for fun, many suggested that he must have been killed by wild animals, since the Mojave Desert is home to rattlesnakes, mountain lions, and coyotes. But some wild theories suggested he might have witnessed a crime in the desert and was silenced, or that he found a secret military base and was eliminated by the government. However, a few months after Kenny vanished, a comment from a woman named Sharon Pilgrim on the original video suggested a completely different possibility, that Kenny had taken his own life. Her comment read, "I am the girlfriend that Kenny spoke of in the video. Kenny has not been found, and I feel that he probably will not be found for many, many months, if ever. I want you to know that I do not think that Kenny had an accident. I believe he took his life. He battled with depression for many years and would not take medication or see a doctor. He quit his job a little more than a year before he disappeared." Responding to Kenny's phone being found in the mine shaft, Sharon added another disturbing detail. "The mine shaft was about a 4-hour hike from his car. It is my feeling that he left it behind so that he could not be tracked by the GPS in it. He also did not take his video camera with him on this solo hike. It was left in his home, so he had no intention of filming anything. I am healing from my loss and look forward to new experiences with desert hiking, camping, and taking beautiful pictures of our desert. Enjoy your adventures of life, and thank you for the kind, loving comments sent my way." Though Sharon Pilgrim's comments seemed very sincere, bringing to light that Kenny might have taken his own life, the case still remains unresolved. Over the years, several YouTubers have discovered caves in the same area that Kenny was adventuring, which look almost exactly like the letter M.
Okay, I made it up here to the entrance of this M cave. There's the one side of it, comes down and then goes back up there and down. Now, this doesn't look to be very deep at all, and it looks like they were trying to wall it off. There's stacked rocks right there, as well as behind me here.
Recently, one of these caves even had a danger restricted area sign put up at its entrance. While it's possible that Kenny took his own life in the desert, does this cave hold a secret we don't know? What actually is in this cave? On September 8, 2015, Tim from Mountain View, Minnesota, contacted the police about his missing friend, 32-year-old Henry McCabe. Henry, a Liberian immigrant and auditor for the Department of Revenue, had vanished. Tim told the police that Henry had been at a barbecue with a friend named Emmanuel and then left for a nightclub around 11 p.m. The police quickly realized this was a complex case.
And the length of time that it's taking to bring the case to a conclusion is not because of the lack of effort by law enforcement, but because the actors that are involved in this case are sophisticated and they've gone to great lengths. But because the actors that are involved in this case are sophisticated and they've gone to great lengths to conceal their involvement.
According to two friends who were with Henry at the SAA nightclub in Spring Lake, he had been drinking heavily that night. When they left the club at around 2 a.m., Henry asked William, one of the friends, to drop him off at a nearby gas station. It was odd since William offered to take him home, but Henry insisted. After being dropped off, Henry called his wife a little after 2:20 a.m. and then vanished into the night. Henry's wife said he sounded delirious during their call. Near the end, she calls one of Henry's friends, asking him to find her husband. The friend didn't answer, but his voicemail recorded the last 2 minutes of Henry's call. What it captured was chilling. The recording is nearly incomprehensible, filled with growls, moans, and screams. The sounds are so disturbing, it's hard to interpret what exactly happened. It almost sounds like someone is being attacked, but it's impossible to be sure. The voicemail is truly unsettling. That same evening, another acquaintance called Henry and later told the police that Henry seemed to be in a confrontation with someone during the call. Strangely, although Karen McCabe, Henry's wife, mentioned that the sounds her husband made were extremely out of character for him, who was usually perfectly articulate, she only made one call to one of Henry's friends to try and get him to pick up her husband. When she didn't get a response, she went right back to bed.
Sure where he was, what it might have been like, what circumstances would have made him sound like that.
Even more unsettling, during questioning, Karen repeatedly insisted she knew Henry was alive, despite having no evidence to prove it.
What is the justification? What is the right thing to do?
After the unsettling voicemail, Henry's phone records revealed he had called a Texas number over 20 times that day. When the police tried to trace the number, it was no longer in service. It's unclear if Henry made those calls or if someone else did, but after his eerie conversation with his wife, phone records showed that several more calls were made from Henry's phone to that same disconnected number in the days following his disappearance.
In the case of Henry McCabe, we have more questions than we have answers. We have a puzzle with a lot of pieces that just don't fit together. So in the effort of encouraging information to come forward, Minnesota Community Policing Services Missing Person Fundraising Committee is offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to the location and recovery of Henry McCabe.
As the investigation progressed, things took a darker turn. Strangely, the police could not find any footage of William's red car at the gas station where he claimed to have dropped off Henry, despite reviewing footage from every possible angle. William later changed his story, saying that after dropping Henry off, he drove a few miles to another gas station and let him out there.
I dropped Henry off at the gas station, the exit gas station on Highway 65.
Why?
Because he asked to be drop off there.
A confidential FBI source later revealed that during the searches, Emmanuel, the barbecue host, and 3 other men would often linger on the outskirts of the search area, whispering among themselves. Despite this, their connection to Henry's disappearance remained unresolved. On October 2nd, nearly a month after Henry vanished, the New Brighton Police Department received a bizarre, anonymous letter. The letter ominously stated, "Henry McCabe. His body is near water, partially buried. Search dog needed. Witnesses who saw the burial is terrified. Young female, encouraged to come forward. Anonymity guaranteed and protection assured." Authorities discovered Henry's body in Rush Lake on November 2nd, just a few miles from where he had been supposedly dropped off on the night he disappeared. Strangely, there were no signs of foul play despite the anonymous letter suggesting he had been buried by someone else. A vigil was held at the place where he was found. With no clear evidence on his body, what do you think took place that night? Was he drowned by assailants or took his own life? or maybe another sinister scenario occurred. On July 29, 2008, Susan Powell, a mother of two, made a chilling video documenting the valuables in her Utah home. She said it was just in case something happened to her.
This is me. July 29th, 2008. It is 12:33 Mountain Time. Covering all my bases, making sure that if something happens to me or my family or all of us, that our assets are documented. Hope everything works out and we're all happy and live happily ever after as much as that's possible.
Susan's attorney advised her to make the video because he feared her husband, Josh, might try to sell her expensive belongings. Their marriage had been falling apart for years, and in the video, Susan hinted that things had been very tense between her and Josh for a long time.
Today is Tuesday, July 29th, 2008, and we are in the 6254 West Sarah Circle house. This is me. Hi. Sorry. And it is, can you see that? 11:44 a.m. And I am documenting all our assets just in case of any emergencies, fire, flood, damage, disputes.
Although Susan had been consulting a divorce attorney, she and Josh were still living together in 2009. Nearly a year and a half after making the scary video, Susan went to church with her two boys on December 6th. A neighbor visited her that afternoon, leaving around 5 p.m. That night, in the middle of a blizzard, Josh supposedly took their sons, Charlie and Braden, on a bizarre midnight camping trip along the Pony Express Trail. Josh claimed Susan stayed home because she was tired. The next day, when Susan's boys didn't show up at daycare, her family and friends reported her missing. When Josh returned from this strange camping trip, he insisted Susan had been sleeping peacefully when he left and had no idea what happened to her.
The attorney is not an issue, and that's not an issue right now. The issue is that you have a wife that's missing. That's the issue, that's the concern. Okay, and that's why I don't understand why you're worried about having an attorney. Because I simply just want to, yeah, we spoke last night, but we didn't go into any, a whole lot of details. Okay, I have a lot of questions still. All right, we need to find your wife. I would think that you would want to, help me find your wife.
What kind of questions are they still?
There's quite a few questions. I want to go over, all of her friends again. I want to go over who she talks to. I want to go over her work history. I want to go over where you guys have lived. There's all kinds of things. Okay. Do you not want to find your wife?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Why are you making this so difficult then?
Well, let's go. If that's the kind of questions, I guess it's fine.
If you want to leave, you can leave at any time.
All right.
You're not under arrest. I'm not detaining you. Okay? If you don't want to be here, you can leave. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk. Well, I'm just simply saying that I want to find your wife.
I just want to talk, but I'm getting scared.
After searching the couple's Utah home, police found no signs of foul play, but the investigation only grew more bizarre. In Susan's safe deposit box at her workplace, they discovered a handwritten will where Susan claimed Josh had recently taken out a $1 million life insurance policy on her. Chillingly, she also wrote, "If I die, it may not be an accident." About 10 days after her mysterious disappearance, authorities learned that Josh had filed to withdraw money from a retirement account and was officially declared a person of interest. Disturbingly, Susan's family and friends noted that Josh showed little interest in finding his wife during search efforts. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Josh Powell was never formally charged in Susan's disappearance.
Maybe there's a reason we haven't found her yet. Maybe having her story brought up again and again and again in the news helps somebody else who could end up like her get out in time before it's too late.
During the investigation, police questioned the couple's two sons, but their young age made it difficult to obtain useful information. While the boys did mention that Josh had taken Susan on the camping trip the night she disappeared, they also made bizarre claims like arriving at the campsite by airplane. This made their statements unreliable as evidence against Josh. Soon after, Josh and his sons moved back to their home state of Washington. Authorities quickly deemed it unsafe for Braden and Charlie to live with their father, and in the midst of the investigation, Josh lost custody of the boys. However, the case took a disturbing turn. On February 5, 2012, over 2 years after Susan's disappearance, a state caseworker brought the two boys to Josh's house for a supervised visit. Upon their arrival, Josh immediately locked the social worker out and took the lives of both his children and himself by setting the house on fire with gasoline.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for 2 News at 10 o'clock. New efforts tonight to try to find Susan Powell on the 10th anniversary of the death of her young boys.
On this date in 2012, Braden and Charlie Powell were murdered by their father in Washington state when he set their home on fire.
If his behavior during the early stages of the investigation was suspicious, the horrific crimes Josh committed that day in 2012 were as clear an admission of guilt as one can get in a case like this. After this tragic incident, police turned their attention to Josh's brother and father, suspecting they knew more about Susan's disappearance than they admitted. Despite having strong evidence suggesting Michael, Josh's brother, had helped conceal Susan's body, the investigation stopped when Michael took his own life in 2013.
I suddenly had this thought, I should try and get Josh to confess. We're just about to have dinner and we went in and the boys were so excited to see us.
My birthday! It is! It's your birthday, Charlie!
I didn't know exactly how to force this confrontation with Josh.
I've been hearing rumors that you'll probably be arrested soon.
Well, I don't know.
Suddenly, I just shoved Josh into the bathroom. And at that point, I was like, drop all pretense. Just tell me where her body is.
We tried to cover it up. Where is Susan?
Jennifer did a phenomenal job.
I just don't believe it anymore. I can see it in your eyes. There's something there.
You're wrong. No, nothing's there.
I think you just need to confess now and get it over with.
Don't be ridiculous. I know what I've done, and I haven't done anything.
You told me.
I've already told you every step. I'm not going to violate my attorney's direction.
He still wouldn't budge. He still would not give me anything. I was so frustrated.
Over a decade later, Susan's father won a lawsuit against the state of Washington for nearly $100 million, citing negligence and failure to protect the two boys who were supposed to be in the state's custody. He donated a significant portion of the settlement to a charity supporting domestic violence survivors. Nearly 15 years after her disappearance and the tragic murder of her two children, people still gather annually in Susan's hometown of Puyallup, Washington, to honor her memory. Over the years, Susan's father has received tips about possible locations of her remains, including abandoned mines in Utah and other remote areas. Unfortunately, each lead has proven false, and it seems increasingly unlikely that Susan's remains will ever be found. In the summer of 2013, 26-year-old Brandon Lewis, an oil worker from Texas, came home from work and immediately got into a heated argument with his long-term girlfriend. Tensions had been high between them for days, with Brandon working long hours from Monday to Sunday and their youngest child only a few months old. Adding to the strain, Brandon had recently relapsed into addiction. It's unclear whether his girlfriend kicked him out or if he chose to leave after about an hour of arguing. Regardless, Brandon got into his silver Ford F-150 and left his home in San Angelo at midnight on August 8th, never to be seen again. The bizarre and unsettling events that followed in the next few hours have made this case one of the most mysterious and disturbing disappearances of the decade. About half an hour after leaving his house, Brandon called his brother Kyle, informing him that he was stranded a few miles south of Bronte on a desolate stretch of highway, having run out of gas. Kyle fetched a gas can from Brandon's house, located about a mile from his own, and set out to find his brother. But things took an unexpected turn. At around 12:50 a.m., Brandon made a shocking 911 call that sent shivers down everyone's spine.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushed some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here. You got to take the pictures to the woods. Please learn.
Okay, now run that by me.
When I talked to him, I surely ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
You need an ambulance?
Yes, no, I need to call.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
The background noises in the call are unclear, but some claim they can hear gunshots and voices. The exact details of what was happening remains a mystery. 8 minutes after Brandon's 911 call, another driver alerted the authorities about a dangerously parked silver F-150 on the highway, with its rear protruding into the lane. Following the 911 call, Brandon continued to contact Kyle, and they exchanged a series of perplexing phone calls. Although these calls weren't recorded, Kyle reported that Brandon sounded extremely paranoid, repeatedly insisting that he was being chased out of town by local Mexicans. When Kyle asked if Brandon had been using drugs again, Brandon vehemently denied it. Around 1:10 a.m., Kyle reached the spot where Brandon's truck was parked, only to find his brother missing. A few minutes after Kyle's arrival, Brandon called again, making alarming statements. He claimed he could see Kyle and the officer who had just arrived, said he was bleeding, and urged them to hurry. Yet, he remained out of sight. Kyle frantically tried to contact Brandon, but all calls went straight to voicemail. After failing to locate him that night, the police launched an official search involving helicopters, thermal cameras, dogs, and a large search party. Despite these efforts, Brandon was nowhere to be found. It later emerged that Brandon had cashed out his 401k on the night he disappeared, hinting he might have left voluntarily. However, considering his shocking calls to 911 and Kyle, there's also a possibility that he fell victim to cartel activity or encountered a dangerous individual on the road. In February 2022, family members and friends launched a search within the area Brandon made the 911 call. They discovered shoes and clothing in private property matching what Brandon wore the night he vanished. Nearby, police found human remains like skulls. They were sent for testing, and there was a confirmation that they belonged to Brandon, but still no clues about what happened to him that night.
Closest to the roadway being 277, and work our way out. My thought process in that moment was, if he's here, he's probably somewhere near the roadway if he was walking along the roadway. We made about 2 or 3 passes of the property, and we weren't finding anything. There was a lot of animal bones. Luckily, they were obvious they were animal bones. It got to probably be about 1:30, 2 o'clock. I said, you know, how you guys feeling? You want to take a break, get some water? They're like, yeah, we need a break. Okay, well, let's take a break, munch on something, get something to drink, and, rest for a minute. I'm going to look at a map of the property while we're all resting. I'm looking at the map of this property, and as I'm looking at it, my conversation with Lou is starting to flash back. He's in an area that no bodies looked. That's the words that keep running through my head. And I got to noticing a part of the property that didn't look like it had any ATV trails or deer stands on it. And I said, I want to go back there. So I gathered my search team up and I said, okay, this property's kind of oddly shaped. I won't give away the exact shape of it. But I said, if we cover this little area where I'm looking at on the map and we knock that out, we're obviously going to have to come back because we're not going to finish this today. But when we come back, we'll have nothing but a perfect square to finish out. And they all said, okay. So we walked back to this area and I search
with what's called a lane pattern search. It's where everybody lines up in a line next to each other, and you kind of go back and forth over the property, and you turn and you come back as you go. Okay. Kind of like in a sweeping motion.
Yeah.
And man, we weren't back in this area 5 minutes, and the couple to my left, it's a husband and wife couple. As I'm walking, I always look over and keep an eye on my team, make sure they're right next to me. I'm walking and I look, and the lady that's supposed to be next to me is not next to me. And so I turn, and her husband's next to her, and she's down on the ground, just like with her arms out, kind of like this, and she's looking down. So, Jason, there's part of his shoe here. Okay, no problem. I knew what type of shoe Brandon had on when he went missing. And luckily, this same couple, this just goes to speak how smart they were, smarter than me, thinking ahead. They actually found an exact same pair of that shoe on eBay, same color, everything, and bought it and brought it with them to the search.
Wow.
So we could look at it and see it and know what we were looking for. I knew in talking with Chief Barry and some other people that one thing that was likely to survive that long was the shoe, more specifically the rubber bottom.
Right.
Because rubber doesn't deteriorate as quickly. And, this lady, this young lady sitting there staring at the bottom part of a shoe here. Okay. So I walk over, and it's laying like this. So I can't see the bottom part. That's what I need to see. I see the Nike symbol and the word Max. And I just went, well, I won't repeat the word I said, but uh-oh.
Yeah.
About that time, as I'm looking at this, Melissa from Cold Crimes and Cabernet and her husband have something, on the opposite end of the line that they're kneeling down to look at. And I'm looking at this shoe. This is a Nike Air Max. That's what Brandon had on. And I hear Melissa's husband say, "There's a pair of shorts here. It's camouflage shorts." Those are the shorts. That's what Brandon was wearing when he was missing, was shorts.
Well, and you're out in this area. There's no trails. Yeah. There's no reason for any sign of life or sign of a human to be out in that area.
No.
Yeah.
And another thing that the landowners told me was that they don't even go to that property that often.
Right.
They will go to it, every couple of years or something like that, just to hunt, or we'll let some friends go hunt. But other than that, we're not out there really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it didn't surprise me that they didn't stumble upon this. And even then, they didn't know there was missing. So, finding just a piece of random clothing probably wouldn't have thrown up any red flags for them. And if you go out into your local woods and search, you'd be surprised what you'll find.
Yeah.
But so I'm sitting there in my mind going, man, all this is really starting to look like I've got something here. And I wasn't sure who to call really, whether it was Cobb County or the Texas Rangers, or I just said, I need to call Lou Barry, because if anybody's going to know, he is.
Yeah.
And a couple of the guys, decided to go ahead and walk a little further a ways, and the cell phone services out there is kind of crummy. And the wind's blowing and it's cold. And if you ever tried to hold your phone in the sunlight, the sunlight makes it really hard to see your screen. So I'm trying to find Lou's number, and I hear the guys shout, "I found the other shoe." And I just went, oh man, this is it. This has got to be it. What are the odds that somebody else is running around here in the exact same pair of clothing that a man went missing wearing?
Yeah.
That's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So I knew right there, kind of, this is it. We just found evidence of Brandon. So I got on the phone and I called Lou Barry. I said, "You're not gonna believe this, but I think we just got it, And he said, "What do you got?" I sent him pictures of everything that we had. And he said, "Okay, game's over. It's time to call in law enforcement." He said, "You got to get your people out of there. You got to evacuate the area, because if there's more evidence out there, y'all don't need to be running around." I said, "Yeah, I know." So,
do you tag it in some way? Like, how do you mark the area? Or
we mark it with a GPS.
Okay.
And, so I'm talking to Lou, and he says, "Okay,
you want to contact the sheriff or do you want me to? And I'm like, you're the retired police chief. You contact it.
Good call.
Okay, let me see if I can get a hold of the office. And he goes, you guys just get out of there, walk back to your cars and sit tight. Let me see if I can get a hold of the office. And so we walk back to the cars and the full gravity of what just happened hits me. And that's where you get that famous picture that's on, where I'm sitting on the ground and Melissa's husband is, it all came, man. Like,
yeah.
The floodgates opened.
Mm-hmm.
I knew tonight this family has an answer.
Yeah.
Not to make this about me in any way, shape, form, or fashion, because it's not. But that picture, like I said at CrimeCon, is a man that's realizing about 1,000 things all at once.
In 1986, Antoinette Caido was a 9-year-old girl living in Gallup, New Mexico with her mother and her 2 sisters. She was described by people who knew her as wise beyond her years, which isn't a phrase that is often used to describe a 9-year-old child. On Sunday, April 6, 1986, Antoinette's mother, Penny, got a babysitter for her 3 young daughters and went out for a night on the town with some friends to a local bar called the Talk of the Town. When Penny returned around midnight, she sent the babysitter home and the 3 young girls stayed awake with their mother. They would eventually end up going to bed in their mom's room. At some point, Antoinette and her younger sister Wendy heard a knock coming from the front door. The 2 girls didn't recognize the man at the front door, so they ignored him and returned to bed. According to Wendy, she's unsure of how much time passed, but there was another knock on the front door. Antoinette, being the mature older sister that she was and used to stepping into the head of the household role, got up by herself to answer the door, but she would never return. The next morning, Penny woke up around 7 a.m. to get the girls ready for Bible school. She discovered that Antoinette was missing. There are reports that she possibly thought Antoinette was out looking for a neighbor's missing dog, while other reports have no mention of that detail and actually deny it. Either way, Penny began searching for her daughter with the help of neighbors, but they had no luck. At approximately 11 a.m., Penny contacted the Gallup police, but she was told she would need to wait another 8 hours to report her daughter missing. Unfortunately, this wasn't uncommon before Amber Alerts. An elderly neighbor came forward to law enforcement to let them know that she saw an older model brown van outside the Caido home at approximately 6:30 to 7 a.m. that morning. She recalls the man got out of the vehicle and approached the home, but wasn't able to offer any more details than that. According to neighbors, it wasn't unusual to see different people coming and going, so it was easy for the elderly woman not to pay close attention to the person's identity. When questioned, both parents of Antoinette, including her father Larry, did not know anyone who drove a brown van. About 1 year later, the Gallup Police Department received a phone call from a young girl claiming to be Antoinette.
Police Department. Hello. I'm Antoinette Garibito. I'm Antoinette Garibito in Albuquerque. Okay, whereabouts in Albuquerque? You said you could use a boat. Hello? Antoinette, where are you? Antoinette? Hello?
The frantic caller claimed to be the girl, and this was confirmed by her mother, who claimed to recognize her daughter's voice. She was quoted as saying, "I listened to the tape over and over and over, and by the way she says her last name and the way that she screamed sent chills all over my body. A mother knows, and I know that was her." Over the following years, there would be several alleged sightings of Antoinette, one of the most notable being in 1991. The FBI had created age-progressed photos of her and how she would have looked at 14 years old, the age she would have been in 1991. After being widely distributed, a waitress in Carson City, Nevada reported to police that she may have had a possible encounter with Antoinette while at work. She reported that an ungroomed, unkempt male and female couple, along with a teenage girl who resembled Antoinette, had come into the diner where she worked. She thought the behavior of the girl was odd. She seemed to be repeatedly and deliberately dropping her fork. When the waitress would attempt to help and pick up the fork, the girl would squeeze her hand in a possible attempt to signal she needed help from the waitress. They finished their meal, and some time passed before the waitress was able to go back and bus the table. When she did, she found a note under the girl's plate that said, "Help me," and "Call police." The attention from the phone call to the Gallup Police Department and the diner incident prompted law enforcement to dig deeper into the case and re-interview any family or friends that they had before. Antoinette's younger sister Wendy was among those interviewed, and she came forward with alarming information. Wendy claimed that the night her older sister disappeared, she witnessed her abduction. She says that when the second knock came from the front door, she followed Antoinette. When Antoinette asked who was there, a man answered and said it was Uncle Joe. This seemed to lower Antoinette's inhibitions, so she opened the door. According to Wendy, two men grabbed Antoinette, and she tried to fight back by kicking and screaming. When police asked Wendy why she didn't speak up before, she stated that she didn't want to upset her mother. As far as the Uncle Joe that Wendy claimed to have heard, they actually did have an Uncle Joe, but he was cleared by law enforcement of any involvement. Sadie revealed shocking new details about the night Antoinette went missing. When Penny, Antoinette's mother, was getting ready to go out that evening, a man by the name of Emo showed up with flowers and a gift for Antoinette. He even had her sit on his lap when Penny had left the room. Penny had been introduced to Emo by her best friend Ronald and had never seen him before making this odd visit. Penny had previously admitted to investigators that Emo, a grown man, had brought flowers to her daughters on 3 separate occasions in the days before her disappearance. However, she only admitted this detail when a family member brought it up in front of police. Sadie claims that after Antoinette went missing, neither Emo nor Ronald, Penny's best friend, ever spoke to Penny again. Emo was given a polygraph test, but the results were never made public. In 1994, the FBI re-interviewed the mother. This time, when asked about the sequence of knocks on the door that night, she said, "I told Antoinette to go ahead and answer it. I laid there for a period of time, maybe 30 minutes, and Antoinette never came back," which is notably different from her previous story that she woke up at 7 a.m. and noticed her daughter was gone. When investigators pressed Penny about her involvement with her daughter's disappearance, she stated, "What if I told you Emma and I did this? Would we both go to prison? What do you think really happened? Was the mom involved in the kidnapping of her daughter?" Let's hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video.